Strip it. Strip it. All right, leave it. Strip. Bump it. He's coming.
Oh my God.
He got it. Nice. All right, y'all. Welcome back to another episode of the Redfish podcast. I'm getting near that fall time frame. I'm getting kind of busy. We all are. Weather has been blowing a couple days now, but it's been good before that. Got to deal with some bull reds on the beach and all, and pretty much all down in Venice and all. And now we're kind of here today within a couple days of a pretty big meeting. Like I've told y'all in previous podcasts, and like I've told everybody for a while, we have that meeting coming up October 5th, which is this Thursday coming up. So I'll try and get this out tomorrow, so it'll be, a couple days before then. But we have that comment period ending, and it's actually going all the way to the meeting, but I'd like, if you can, get them out before, even if it's the morning of the meeting, beforehand, the night before, anything like that. That would really be pretty clutch. Obviously, we did a lot with that letter with Saltwater Guide Association. They did a great job putting together a really cool letter with a lot of brands behind it, a lot of people behind it, guides, spin fishing guides, fly fishing guides, everybody in the industry, clients of ours. They did a really good job for that. And I pretty much suggested that to a lot of people that maybe didn't really know what to say as far as a comment goes personally. But I've just stressed people like, look, go in and make your personal comments too. Write your personal email. Write what you think. If you need any kind of bullet points or something, there's plenty out there. If not, we can help you with that. But also signing that letter is pretty cool. So we'll present that to the commission as well. And that's going to, show just a lot of support that we've had for that, which has been pretty awesome. I mean, like we were talking about, trout and redfish is a much different issue in Louisiana. And we haven't touched on trout much. We probably don't plan on it. Like I said, this is the Redfish podcast. So we're touching on redfish. Trout do have they have a correlation with redfish in the fact of trout fishing's good. Not as many people are killing redfish, so that's all there is to it. Mostly, we're here to talk about what needs to happen with redfish. Maybe soon we'll get some things done for the good of redfish, and we can get back to talking about catching redfish on popper flies and whatever other fly fishing fad stuff is going on nowadays, or whatever you think is fun as far as fishing goes with redfish. But right now, getting to crunch time. We have a meeting coming up October 5th, like I said, that Thursday. We're actually it's two pretty crucial things. We're going to finalize that notice of intent that we presented back in July, which is the 3 fish, 18 to 24 inches, no overslots allowed to be kept anymore, and no guides limit. Also, on top of that, we're getting a agenda item that is going to revisit that buffer on the pogie boats, So I don't think I've had a whole lot of pushback as far as the limit changes go. I've had some people be like, oh, that slot's kind of tight. I'm like, well, we told you, we got to have a 50% reduction, and it's either we tighten the slot up and get you 3 fish, which is what majority of the public agreed to. I mean, y'all remember back in, I think, May when they presented that public survey, a lot of the public would rather have a tighter slot and keep more fish. That's why they went with this. So all these people that are like, oh, nobody wants that, well, that's bullshit, because the Walleye Fisheries did a public opinion survey. And if you didn't include yourself in that, then who cares? At this point, I don't really want to hear from you. Like I've been saying for a long time now, it's show up or shut up. So that's what's going on here. You show up to these meetings, you talk to the commissioners, and if you're going to sit on the side, not show up, not comment on anything, and just complain on Facebook, then we don't really care to talk to you. Like I said, there hasn't been much kickback on it. The little bit that there has been, there's always been a but. It's like, oh yeah, I agree, it's not as good, something needs to change, but what about pogie boats? Here's your deal. We've pushed on it a while. I tried not to dive into it too much on here just because we were really focusing on regulations for redfish, because there's just so many more rec guys and guides out there fishing them than there are pogie boats. And also I wanted to reiterate the fact too, we are really lacking in the slot fish department. Like I've told everybody, I'm like, that's where we're hurting the worst. Our spawning potential ratio it's in decline. We have a lack of slot fish. The pogie boats aren't killing slot fish. I mean, I know obviously a bull red spawns and creates more, but we're lacking slot fish because we're literally killing them faster than they could reproduce. But, everybody's got to take a cut. It's not just us. If we're going to take a cut recreationally and guides and all, I do agree that everybody needs to be looked at. The pogie industry, menhaden industry needs to be looked at for what they do. They kill a lot more than, I think they say they do, which I don't agree with. And Walleye Fisheries is on that. They're doing their own study on it, their own separate research from Daybrook and Omega. So that's going to be coming up. And also a lot of people always give me, but what about bow fishing? I'm like, look, same thing. I don't think they're killing near what guys with popping corks and, dead shrimp are. But I think it's something to where they don't get to rest anymore. There's a lot of pressure on them. But that's also being looked at, too. There's a permit going out that people are, Walleye Fisheries is gathering evidence. But we're here today because we have the knob that we can turn right now with Walleye Fisheries and the commission behind us on doing something right this second, right now, that's going to make a big difference. And it's also going to put a lot of pressure on the other industries. They start, everything starts lining up. We get towards another stock assessment. That's even more pressure on the menhaden industry, even more pressure, more of a microscope on the menhaden industry, more of a microscope on bow fishing, more of a microscope on land loss. I mean, we all saw at the meeting people wanting to complain to the Walleye Fisheries about land loss, and they're like, look, I don't know what you want Walleye Fisheries to do about that because they can't. So,
yeah, I mean, that's my thing. I understand people don't like, they say, well, why do we got to take, well, lead by example. Okay. So right now, the knob, like you said, that we can turn is we can, the pogie boats are not catching the juveniles, the ones in the marsh. We're catching those as rod and reel fishermen, bow fishermen, recreational fishermen, guides, the like. That's something that is up right now that we can do something about. So, people say, well, why that's one of the, that's one of the gripes you hear from people or from some of the, nonprofits that are behind, kind of, so I wouldn't say fighting this, but, they're using their clout to kind of want to go against it. But they're saying, well, why do the rod and reel people? What about, I'm like, look, I get it. Right. And like you said, Ty, everybody has to sacrifice, but I say lead by example. This is something that is on the table that we can do now. And if we lead by example, like you said, it will be good because they're not doing this to punish us. They're not doing this to say, aha, we're going to take your fish away, you recreational fishermen or you guides or whatever. They're doing this because there's a problem with the fishery and they see that things need to change. That way we can have a healthier fishery in the future. So I say, if that's what they're doing, then, hey, lead by example. Let's get this thing passed through and let's make our fishery healthier for tomorrow. And then if we do that, then we can say, hey, we did our part. Now it's time to tighten up on these commercial guys. Because I'm with you, Ty. Look, here's what's happening. And I won't go into big detail, but there's obviously something going on with the pogie boats where they are now either keeping those bull reds that they net, or they're chopping them up, or they're dumping them. And look, I'm not saying that that's happened. Let me back up. I don't know for sure that's happened. All I know is that in all the years past, there was not uncommon to see bull reds dead all over the place after the pogie boats, netted. And now you don't see it anymore. Well, it ain't like the bull reds got smarter and, just don't get caught in the nets. Or I don't know, maybe they're avoiding them. Maybe when they see a lot of bull, I don't know, but I just know something's changed because now you don't see it as much. And it's not because all of a sudden, the bull reds just, disappeared and got smarter and got out the net. So anyway, without being long-winded, we can do this now, talking about this change in the redfish limit. And I hope that people that, do care, write a comment, look, this thing's going to go out tomorrow, I think, Ty, you said. So let's get out there, get on the comments. Ty will put a link to the where you can sign the letter or send your comments to the Wildlife and Fisheries and make your voice heard. And let's see if we can't do something good for the fishery for a change.
Yeah, for sure. And I mean, as far as like, we'll touch a little bit on the pogie boat thing just because something's coming up about it, this agenda. But I'm just trying to get people straight as far as the fact. The thing with the menhaden fishery is this. So they're definitely feeling a little pressure from us over the years. There's no doubt about it. I mean, prime example, me and Shane, what was that, last week? Shane, we were running the beach one day. They sent the net boats out, both net boats. I mean, we were on the shoreline. They were going straight to the shoreline. There's no doubt about it. There was pogies all the way up to the beach. They were going to run that net all the way to the beach in, super shallow water. The steamer was, he was sitting in 10, maybe 12 feet of water or so.
Yeah, probably so. Mm-hmm.
They were going to do it. And honestly, we and Shane, not that we ran to them, but we were running that way, from east to west, just down the beach looking for a group of fish. And they kind of backed off. And I've never really seen them do that before. Now, maybe those pogies weren't the best pogies. The spotter plane sees a lot more than we do. Maybe they backed off because they saw redfish. I really doubt it. But or maybe we kind of, I kind of slowed down and was like, I wonder what's going on. Maybe I'll sit here and get some video or something of them pushing all the way up on the beach or something. The net boats went back to the boat, and I've never seen that before. Now, we didn't hang around. They might have just waited till we passed and sent them right back out. We had some clients. We weren't going to wait there for 3 hours just to get a video complaining about pogie boats. We had to put some guys on some fish. But they're definitely feeling the pressure. I think it may have been a little of everything. Maybe they just were like, we'll just go somewhere else. These guys got iPhones, they're going to be on Facebook later complaining. We need to be on our P's and Q's from now on. So maybe that's it. But my biggest thing is with it, it's not really them catching the fish. And, they're obviously they're killing bull reds. They're killing menhaden too, which are a major part of our ecosystem. But why can't they do it further off the beach, man? Like, it's too irresponsible to be killing bull reds, period, especially when we're taking cuts because of the decline in our fishery. So why in the hell do they just get a free pass to kill bull reds for nothing? They're not using them for anything. They're not going to whatever they're selling them for, So I just don't get... If they do this research every year and they're like, we're not hurting the menhaden population, look at our math. So awesome. If you're not hurting the menhaden population, there's that many pogies out there. Go do it out deep. Why do you have to do it on the beach? Why do you have to do it in 10, 15 feet of water where bull reds or massive schools of bull reds are chasing them to eat and feed up before they spawn and all? That's my
and look. Yeah, and hey, look, I know they've been doing it. They always, the big thing is, they've been here. Well, you know what? Yeah, I get it, but so have all the recreational fishermen, and so have everybody, and everybody's got a sacrifice, right? They've been here. Well, yeah, I've been here too. I was born in Port Sulpher Hospital. It ain't there no more. Matter of fact, if you'd have thrown me out the womb, I'd have landed in the water. So don't give me no BS about, I've been here, because none of them guys on them boats been in Plaquemines Parish any damn longer than I have, period. Unless maybe, well, put it this way, maybe they were born here too, but I'm just saying, it ain't about, I'm not trying to put anybody out of business. Everybody's got to sacrifice. I'm sorry. Just because you got bigger boats and you're a big industry, that doesn't mean anything to me, because this is my industry and there's a lot of people coming in. They can say the pogie industry does this and does, they pay. Well, how many of them pogie industry, how many people do they bring in to Lower Plaquemines Parish or all these other coastal communities that are actually coming in, spending money, coming into the city, coming into New Orleans, booking hotels and stuff in Venice, Port Sulphur, parish down, spending money in the parish. Do they do that? No, they don't do that. We do that. And so, yeah, you can look at the tax base as far as what the pogie industry pays. I get that. But don't say that, we bring to the table isn't a whole lot, because it is. Because I can tell you, if it wouldn't be for sport fishing on the lower end of the parish, it'd be a damn ghost town most of the time. So all those businesses, people that are still around there are in support of that, they wouldn't be there if it wouldn't be for sport fishing.
That's my thing with it all. And people are like, we have an oil industry and all. I'm like, yeah, I get it. Oil is what kind
It's
of
king. Yeah.
that's what it's always been. Now, I will say our oil industry has been in a major decline. I mean, they're moving everything out to West Texas and all. Oil in Louisiana is on a decline, and I don't really see it picking up, at least with the administrations that we've had over the years. And there's a lot of people coming after it and all. But I'll tell you this: you take away our red fishery, and we don't do anything, and our red fishery does eventually go to shit or crash or something. What the hell are you going to Venice Marina for? I mean, yeah, maybe some offshore fishing, but there's a whole lot more days a year you're red fishing. But forget about Venice and Cypress Cove just because they have a sport fishing industry and offshore. What happens to Joshua's Marina? What happens to Happy Jack? Like all those places. I mean, you're not getting out of town people to stay around there anymore and launch. I mean, Delacroix. Geez, well, what are you going to do in Delacroix? I mean,
look, you can go on and on about it, and the fact is, it depends on which side of the table you're on. I see both sides. I know some of those guys that are captains on the pogie boats, and I don't want them to not. I'm not looking to put those guys out of business. That's where they're wrong. I'm just saying, what about me? What about us? What about my industry? Why is it that you think that you have the right to impact my business? And I don't have the right to stand up against that. I'm sorry. It just don't fly. It don't go that way.
Yeah, so that's my thing with it is like a lot of the argument for them is, oh, we've been doing it forever and all this. And like Shane said, like, oh, so have recreational fishermen and guides and all down here. We're all going to take a cut. You're going to have to take a cut too. But you claim the menhaden fishery is as good as it ever was. So why don't you just go offshore a little bit? Get off the beach. Leave the redfish alone. So there's a whole lot we can get into.
Yeah, so we can bog down
pogie boats. I mean, maybe we'll do a whole damn episode on pogie boats one day. I'm sure a lot of people would love that. It comes down to everybody's taking a cut. They're going to have to take a cut. I mean, I'm not going to sit here and say that pogie boats don't have an effect on our redfish. We know they do. There's scientific theories and studies done to prove it, and there's also plenty of anecdotal evidence to prove it. But I'm not going to say if we snapped our fingers tomorrow and pogie boats disappeared, that our red fishing is just going to go back to what it was. It's not, because it's everybody.
Crazy to me how, like, every time I go out, Port Sulphur, even in Hopedale, and you're out, because I like to run away out and look for big fish. Every time you go out there, dude, the pogie boats are right up on the long rocks that, in Hopedale. They're right on the beach in Port Sulphur, Empire, whatever. And yeah, we used to see, dead bull reds floating everywhere after the pogie boats left. And then it's just kind of amazing, ironic, when you start posting those videos and pictures on Instagram and Facebook and all that stuff, that all of a sudden, you don't see as many dead bull reds anymore. And they didn't quit killing them. Like we already said, I'm not trying to rehash the whole thing, but it's pretty amazing that how they have the right to do that, but yet we can't stand up and fight for it. Just like what Shane said. So, yeah, I told y'all, sorry I got a sore throat from the Holy Cross John Curtis game the other night. But, but glad to be here. I'll comment when I can.
Here, I got the agenda right here. I'll just read it.
I saw it. I mean, I saw what David posted. I mean, I knew it was like, because I think the pogie boat's right before the redfish, right?
Yeah, so receive and consider modification to commercial menhaden regulations. And then we have number 14, receive a summary of public comments from the July 2023 notice of intent to modify red drum size and bag limits, and consider any modifications to the proposed rule. That's just basically whenever they go to finalize the notice of intent, the wording of it.
If public comment doesn't end until like noon on the day of, how are they going to have a summary? Just go with what they got already? It's just
what they got before then, Yeah. So, all right. So, I really don't understand where people are getting some of their information from. Obviously, it's not. There's no real. As far as the science goes, there's nothing you can dispute that we need to do something, and a 50%, reduction in our red fishing regulations will do nothing but help, and help now rather than later. So who wants to do something that's going to take 30 years that might happen? That's not even feasible, So it's just unbelievable. Whenever I see somebody post something about like, oh, these are going to, these regulations are going to have a negative impact on the fishing industry in Louisiana. How in the hell is you making more fish. Like, we're going to be killing less fish, allowing more fish to live. There's going to be more fish in the water for everybody. How is that going to have a negative impact on the fishing industry?
Yeah, I saw the thing. The guy posted, "How's it's going to have it?" Yeah, I don't know if we're supposed to say the name or where it comes from. Can we say that?
I just leave it like it is.
We'll leave it off.
Yeah.
But yeah, I saw that you sent me, and I was like, "How in the world can it have a negative?" Like, did it ever hurt a fishery to take a fish and throw it back in the water?
Yeah, that's basically what he's saying. And then for the people that think, like, I'm guessing this person or these people think, it's just a copy and pasted thing. We know who wrote this. We know who's copy and pasting it. We'll let them be, because I'm the opposite of Jerry Jones. No publicity is good publicity. So we'll just leave it at that. But I guess their thought is it's going to have a negative impact because they're going to book less trips, which is just mind blowing. And Shane does more bay boat stuff and even keeps some fish here and there more than anybody. And he's done it. Like, Shane, you've had your fair share of fill the boat trips. So, yeah. What's your input on losing customers because you can't keep as many redfish?
Well, I personally, I don't think it's going to impact me. Now, I can see both sides of it. You've got people that are worried that, well, if we don't let these people come down here, and, I've said this before, if we don't let them come down here and keep all these fish, well, they're not going to come. Matter of fact, I had a guy, it was about a week ago, and he comes down and we're talking about it, we're not, and actually it's funny because that day he said, look, I don't want to keep anything. All we want to do is we want to catch some big bull reds. And they were running along the beach that day. Dave was out there, and we were catching the heck out of them. And we started talking about the proposed changes in the redfish. And he's like, oh, man, I don't know about that. It's going to be hard for me. My wife ain't going to want me to come down here if I can't bring a bunch of fish home and all this stuff and this and that. I said, look. And so then I started talking to him. I said, well, look. I said, think about it. How much do you spend to come down here? We started talking about the charter rate and the lodging, and he drove down and the eating dinner. And I said, now you figure that out. I said, now look, I said, if you're trying to justify that expense of that charter trip and that lodging and all that, I said, with a few fish you can bring home, I said, it don't work. I said, I'll go back to my old thing. If you're trying to say, oh, my charter trip, I need to feed my family, well, you need a financial advisor, because the rates we charge for. So anyway, I'll stop being long-winded, but I personally would believe that if you would just, you talk to people and tell them why we're keeping less fish, explain to them. Because any of your customers that are long-term that have been coming, they've seen the changes. They've seen the decline in the fisheries. And we're not saying, and it's also people are scared to say there's an issue because they're scared they're going to scare people off. We're not saying that our fishing's horrible. We're saying it's on the decline, and we want to make sure that it's good for the future. So when you start trying to educate people, tell your customers why you're not letting them keep all these fish, the reason why we're doing it. And, the guy who's got some sense about him is going to say, well, that's a good thing, because I do enjoy coming down here and catching fish, and I'd like to do that in the future. And the guys who are going to be like, well, I ain't going to come if I can. Well, the hell with them. You don't want the son of a bitches in here.
Absolutely. That's my thing.
Yeah, that's the guys. That's not the guys you want.
No.
They don't. The guys that are going to want to bring home ice chests full of fish, and if they can't, well, you know what? Stay your ass back in Alabama, Mississippi, Texas, Florida, wherever the hell you come from. We want the guys who care about our resource and who want it to be there in the future.
Yeah, I think every day when I fish, that's the same conversation. And I know y'all have it as well, like you just said. I had it today, had it yesterday, day before. It's like people talk about, oh, well, I don't want to come if I can't keep a bunch of fish. I said, look, let me tell you a story about this thing called COVID. When COVID hit, I guarantee you can go to Costco and buy a pork loin for about $15-16, and you can get about 20 pork chops. If you be cheap, you can get about 30 out of there. There's a lot cheaper ways to feed your family, because we did it during COVID when we weren't as busy working. And you look at the price, like you said, what we charge to take people fishing. I know we're kind of different. If you primarily fly fishing, people are never keeping fish. And people ask me, like, Dave, can we keep a fish? And I'm like, no, no. And I'm not going to say, have I ever not kept a fish?
Yeah.
I mean, of course I've kept fish, and I'm not opposed to keeping a fish for dinner, but I'm like, well, if you want to throw it in there with your bologna sandwich, throw it on in there. But I don't have
Yeah.
another cooler. And most people like, but yeah, you just educate them. I think that's the biggest thing.
And
Just
that's
like the
my
comments
thing.
online,
Yeah.
people just start speaking out. And
They
know the
don't
full
know.
picture.
They don't know the science behind it. They don't know the impact it has. I mean, my thing with it is like, look, and it's all started from this is the only argument that anybody can even try. It's like this guy on Facebook wrote. He's like, oh, it's bow fishing and riding reel guys, and everybody that loves catching and eating redfish are fighting the fly fishing guys to keep the current redfish regulations. Well, I'm here to tell you that is not the sole reason that this all changed. I don't fly fish more than I spin fish. Probably it's probably 50-50. And I've had plenty of people in the past keep fish. I just don't do it anymore because I feel if I can throw throw majority of the fish that I catch back, then it's going to help me in the long run. And I just figured I'd do my part. But I book trips for people that go, and keep fish. They go in bay boats and keep some fish. And I tell everybody, I'm like, look, when somebody calls me and they're like, hey, I got three or four guys or so. We're staying in Delacroix in, November, and we want to keep some, we want to catch a couple fish to eat that night and maybe catch a big bull red. I'm like, all right, that's cool. Like, look, I'm just here to tell you, like, first off, our clients are going to put you, the guys I'm going to send you with are going to put you on some fish. You're going to catch some fish. Well, maybe, if you want to catch a bull red, that's cool. They'll go try and catch a bull red or so. If you want to catch slot fish, something to eat for dinner, they'll do that too. Like, look, I'm just telling you, these aren't the guys that you call and they're going to bring you to just catch, 15, 20 redfish in one spot and be home at 9 a.m. Because pretty much anybody that calls me to book a trip, they're like, yeah, I don't want to fish for an hour and be done. And take home a bunch of fish. I mean, that's the fishery that a lot of these people have created here.
Yeah, that's part of the problem is that because these are the guys that want to go out and catch a limit, as fast as they can and get back in.
And that's not for the clients.
Yeah.
That's for the guys.
That's for the guide. I mean, who you show your watch. Oh, I got a limit at 7:00. So you left the dock at 6 and you got a limit at 7 and you're coming in for 8. Well, hey, if that's your thing, that's fine. But I mean, the clients, a lot of people, they're coming down paying good money.
Yeah.
They don't want to go out for an hour and come in. And hey, if they do, that's fine. But, it is what it is. There's all kind of different.
No, I mean that's what I'm saying though. Like I've had so many clients, and I've sent with people. I've had 2 and 3 bay boats going out multiple times, and especially Delacroix. And my guys in Delacroix, they know. My guys are on the bay boat trips, and some of them were struggling this summer and all, and they know, and they're like, yeah, we definitely need to do something, and. It's so funny though. Like when I call them and I'm like, "Hey, I got somebody for you," they jump out of their seat too, and they're like, "Yeah, let me know. I had this other person call them, but I'd rather run your trip because they know my guys. For one, some of them don't want to keep fish. 2, if they do, they're just going to want to keep a couple, throw them back. That's fish they can catch tomorrow. That's less fish they got to clean at the end of the day." I mean, it's just, and everybody has a great time,
We'll get bogged down on this, and Dave might want to chime in, but, I think it's America, right? I mean, everybody gets their opinion, and that's fine. So whatever you think, I'm just saying our overall goal, I know the 3 of us, and even though our opinions differ a little bit, but the goal of everything in this podcast at this time is to make sure that our fishery is healthy in the future. That is the only agenda I have. Absolutely. I don't give a damn. If they tell me next year that the red fishing is so good that you can keep 50 a day, well, you know what? Have at them.
Yeah.
I'm not a tree hugger, a redfish hugger. I'm not you know what I'm saying? But
yeah, I used to talk about the trips a while ago about getting, catching fish and getting back at 7:30, at 7:45, 8 o'clock, whatever. It's been a while back, but I was on a trip. It was like a 6 or 7 boat trip. So like half of us were probably catch and releasing. Some of them were spin fishing, catch and releasing. Some of them were fly fishing, catch and release. And then we rolled back up, at the dogwood like 2:30, 3 o'clock. And some of the guys are out there having a drink, and you can tell they've been having a good time. It's like, man, where y'all been? We've been back since 10 o'clock. It was like, it's like 10 o'clock. What y'all been doing? He said, yeah, we got out there and we couldn't find any trout, but we got our 10 reds. And the guy says, all right, boys, reel them up. We're going in. And he said,
Yeah.
well, can we like hit a few more spots and just like catch some fish and release? And said the guy looked at him dead in the eyes and says, oh, I don't sport fish.
Yeah.
Reel them up, boys. We're going in.
Jesus.
So, yeah, I mean, and I have people tell me that.
I just think that's such an archaic way, and that just goes in Louisiana how we've gone, you know.
Yeah, but I tell you what, before we get bogged down there, I think what we need to talk about is how we got from the original. What was it? The original notice of intent to where we now got to the 3 and the size change, because that's what people are going crazy about.
Yeah,
so real quick, you need to touch on that real quick, Ty. That way people can understand what's going on.
Just to close that last thing out of the negative impact on the fishing industry, it's unbelievable. This is only going to have a positive impact in the fact that everybody will catch more fish at the likes of this, and a lot of things will come of it from every angle. So let's go on to what Shane was talking about. So the original thing that was brought to walleye fisheries back in July was about a 30% reduction or so, and it was something along the lines of like 4 fish. I think it was 18 to 26 inches or something like that.
Yeah, 18 to 27.
Yeah, 18 to 27. So basically, that was brought on the fact of walleye fisheries has never really had any kind of support to support their science and what they've been doing. And they were pretty much like, well, maybe nobody will yell at us, if we do this. And to that, I said, I'm saying screw that, because they are the people busting their ass every single day, working hard at figuring out what the science is, and then taking public comment on it, which is just like I said at one of the meetings. Look, when they come out and say, hey, we don't really agree with what the federal fisheries government, what the federal government fisheries is, NOAA, is saying about red snapper. We think our science is a little better, and we think Louisiana should kill more red snapper, or be allowed to kill more red snapper, because there's more than what they think. So Louisiana comes back and they raise the limit. We had like a 4-fish limit at one point. Maybe it's still on.
You're saying the biologist said that.
The biologist, the same biologist that did this redfish stock assessment.
Yeah, so everybody's for that.
Nobody, I guarantee you, there was not a single complaint that said, hey, I don't think so. I don't think we should kill these many fish. Y'all are wrong, Y'all are wrong. There's less than that. There's less red snapper than y'all think. But all of a sudden, they say, hey, redfish are in a bad situation right now. We need to lower regulations. We need to all take cuts from every angle. Here's our knob we could turn right now as recreational and guides. We're going to change regulations. We're going to change the slot and change limits. Let's shoot for a 50% reduction, because that puts us back on track. And that's what we push for, a 50% reduction after they proposed a 30% one, because a 30 or 35% reduction, you're looking at 30 years on that. And what the hell's going to happen in 30 years? How many?
Well, explain that. I mean, explain that a little bit. In other words.
It's the bigger cut you take right now, the bigger cut in the reduction,
and the size and all that.
Yeah, the bigger reduction you take right now, the faster we're going to get back to what it should be.
And so explain the 30-year thing. So in other words, in the beginning, the first notice of intent, that there would have been a 30-year period to get back to where we need to be.
Yeah, to get back to target. I mean, that's target. Not even target. Let me rephrase this. To get back to the limit. So when our fishery, when that line, you see those charts, right, for spawning potential ratio and escapement. Redfish are managed by escapement rates. That is how many little fish growing to be spawning fish in the system, right? So they saw the decline in the escapement rates, that it was being overfished, and overfishing was occurring. So they saw the decline in escapement rates, and they said to get back to limit, which is the lowest limit that we think is sustainable for our fishery, we need a 35% reduction. That was the lowest, and that's and based on that, it'll take about 30 years to get to that. I mean, 30 years, Jesus, dude.
So there was some of us at the meeting, and then, people were saying, look, we don't want to wait 30 years. And then Commissioner, I think it was McPherson.
McPherson.
He's the one that said, hey, look, well, can we do this faster?
Yeah.
So, and then everybody has a heart attack because, it'll never pass. It'll never pass. And I'm saying, well, look, so would you rather wait 10 years? Would you rather see the light at the end of the tunnel in 10 years or less, or 30 years? Well, if I got anything to say about it, it's 10 years. And
absolutely.
So it's one less fish, now it's one less fish instead of 4, it's 3. Now the size changed a little bit. And I mean, everybody goes crazy on that end of it. But the key is that it's all about the health of the fishery. We're not putting you over our knee and taking your pants down and paddling you on your bare behind because we're trying to be mean. This is about the future, right? So what is wrong with people? But
you know what? It really shows you what they're thinking.
It's like, selfishness.
It's just what Ty said. If they would have had no problem if they'd have said, well, yeah, we think we need to keep 50 redfish, and they'd be like, yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
50. But when they say no, or if it had been just like the red snapper, we went non-compliant against the feds. Everybody's for that. Now, if they'd have said something different, they'd have been going crazy.
Oh, if they say we need to go back to two red snapper next year instead of 3, like Louisiana has done for 3-4 years now, I mean, everybody's going to lose their mind.
And hey, look, I got something else, and I mean, I'll say this. Okay, why do my guys coming paying the same license fee when they're not keeping anything as the guy that wants to load up every ice chest he can? You know what I say? I say our licenses are too damn cheap.
Yes.
You know what? If you're going to come home, if you're going to pull up in a U-Haul with a U-Haul van behind you, a U-Haul trailer full of ice chests and want to go home, you need to be spending a lot more than $20 for a damn 3-day license.
Oh, yeah. I mean, that's just simple truth of the matter. Like, the detriment to the fishery that those people are causing comparative to, like, people that only keep 1 or 2 or, none. I mean, it's night and day. So why are they paying the same,
So anyway, I mean, so what we're really trying to get people to do is that, make comment, they went from one to the other, and it's in the best interest of the fishery. So if you care about the fishery and you do care about the future of the fishery, we'd like you to make comments in support of it. It can be in opposed to. We just want you to make your voice heard, but look at the facts, look at what they're trying to do, and make some comments. Send them into Wildlife and Fisheries. If you can go to the meeting, be there, and make your voice heard. And it's not just spin fishermen, fly fishermen. I do both, okay? And I challenge anybody, and I'll say this now: anybody who's listens to this who thinks we're full of BS. Well, you know what? I welcome you to come in on a podcast or to call me, or whatever, or Ty or Dave, anybody, and you want to have a discussion about it, and anybody try to prove to me that the fishery is better in their area than it was, say, 5, 10, 15, 20 years ago. Now, there may be some areas, but I'd have to say overall around the whole coastal Louisiana, I'd say most of the fisheries are in decline, and it's a loss of habitat and more pressure. It doesn't take a rocket scientist to figure out what's going on. Now, this year, we've had low rivers for a couple of years, so we do see a lot of smaller redfish in the system because we had successful spawns. My thing is this: should we allow the redfish limit to stay as is, and we do that, that nice crop we have that is seed for the future is going to get obliterated. Why not do something now? Like, in other words, we've got a good crop because we had good spawns the last couple of years. Well, come on, commission members, legislators, y'all, let's do something. Wildlife and Fisheries Commissioner, Secretary, let's do something now to protect the crop we got. That way, we're going toward the road to recovery a lot faster. We had good spawns. Let's take advantage of that. Let's just don't kick it down the road, and then those fish become 16 inches, and we catch the hell out of them, and then what we got?
Then we'll be in the same situation we've been in the past couple of years. What happens? I mean, how many? It's everybody and their grandma catching 16 inches in what, April and May, and then they're all crying and complaining come the summer. I mean, I didn't see a whole lot of slot fishing in March this summer, early summer especially. I had numerous trips booked with guys, with some of my bay boat guys in Delacroix and all. And I mean, I had one day in August that I had like 3-4 boats going out, and they straight up called me the day before and were like, "Hey, I don't know how tomorrow's going to go." And, I'm like, "What do you mean?" They're like, "We haven't really been catching many redfish, and they're used to catching a lot now. It's different from what I do sight fishing, I realize. But, like, they're used to catching, 10, 15 fish, no problem with dead shrimp and all. And when they're like, they only think they can catch a couple, and, a month prior to that, they were whacking and stacking 16 inches. I mean, that's where our fish went. It's just, we have literally beat down the escapement rates because we have, our fish that have gotten to be 27 to 30 inches that aren't being in the system, aren't being kept. And, I mean, some are still. I mean, there's still 80,000 overslots killed a year alone, and we have that number. So if you don't think 80,000 overslots is a lot of fish, I mean, geez, what is the number on underslots kept? I mean, it's exponential over that, because we already didn't think that many people kept overslots. So anyway, getting back to what I was saying, though, those fish are going to get to be 16 inches this fall and spring, and they're gone. That's a wrap. Yeah. They'll be gone, and we'll be right back in the same situation. We're missing like 2 whole generations of fish. And that's just, we're just going to beat them down like that. And that's what we're trying to get people to realize, like, hey, let's do something now to where we can exponentially grow our fishery the next 3 to 5 years or so. Because it's going to pick up quick. If we can get a 50% reduction, we're going to see a change in a couple years for sure, for the better. There's no doubt about it. And then that's going to point the finger more at the menhaden industry. It's going to point the finger more at coastal erosion and all. It's going to point a lot of fingers a lot of different directions. But you can no longer, at least in my opinion, and based on the scientific data that has been found by wildlife fisheries and what they have become, because like I said, they're paid to manage the fishery and maintain the fishery, and they're not paid a whole lot to do so either. They're not political parties. They are biologists, and they get burned for anything that somebody doesn't agree with them up there. They're just up there to make the fishery better. So why not do what we can, make the fishery better, hope we can have more fish for everybody, and hopefully in a couple years we can get back to what it should be. And once we see that, then we have no other option but to say, hey, look, we've taken our cut, everybody else needs to too. So it's only in the good of the fishery. I mean, there's nothing bad that's going to come out of having a reduction on our limits. I mean, the whole losing trips thing is just mind-blowing to me. And maybe it's, I feel like it's a select few of the older crowd that, maybe they've been doing it for a while. But I know plenty of people who have been doing it for a whole long time. And if it's not going to affect them, I don't think it's going to affect anybody.
To be honest with you, I've been doing this full time for 27 years, guiding. And, if they didn't do anything now to change anything, right, as far as the fishing goes, I could probably ride it out. I could finish up my career.
And that's where
it's going to get harder, but that's not what this is about. I care about the future when I'm gone. Because if we don't set the precedence now, we've got loss of land. That's going to continue. We've got to get smarter about what we keep and let go, and we have to be more responsible stewards of this fishery, and we have to change the mentality of you got to keep damn everything. We're not going to have nothing at some point.
I mean, that's the truth of the matter, and people don't people think this place is untouchable, They see, they're like, oh, why do we got to do that? It'll get better. We had a couple bad spawns, this, that, and the other thing, which, I mean, yeah, we probably have had some bad spawns, but I'm telling you, you look at every ounce of every science, And look at it. Just look at other fisheries that have gone. In fishery science, we've seen this over and over. Fisheries crashing and all, and it happens. It can happen to anybody. And just like Shane said, I mean, that's what I'm kind of getting at is some of the disagreements I see are people, Shane's age and older. And I mean, I feel like some of it's selfish in the fact that they're like, oh, I might only be doing this for another 5 to 7 years or so, and I'm going to get mine while I can and screw the next generation. Because if you're disagreeing with making some kind of change now, you're literally saying screw that next generation. That's going to fall on me. And this isn't even about like me. This is about my son Maverick, who he's 18 months right now. I mean. It really blows my mind when somebody that has freaking kids is looking at the fishery and they're like, yeah, we don't need to do anything. You're basically saying, well, screw your kids. Like, you don't want them to ever see what you saw. You don't want them to ever experience it. You just want them to just deal with subpar fishing, or maybe we don't even have a red fishery if we do nothing, That's what's scary about it. That's what I just think people don't think about.
Yeah, I think about my kids, and they're doing math and geometry, and I got one in 11th grade, one in the 6th grade, and you look at all those things. Whether you're doing chemistry and you're looking at weight of elements and all that kind of stuff, we know, how much hydrogen weighs. You look at the element chart, it tells you what that weighs, and you look at, proofs for geometry and different chemical equations for chemistry, and all those things. We know those are fact, and that's the way you work problems. But then when you show the evidence that the biologists show, like, this is what we got to do to make it right, to make it all work out. Like, we got to keep less fish, do this or that with a slot. And then people would just say, no, I don't believe it. It can't be true. And I'm like, what do you mean? I know there's people that don't think 2 + 2 is 4.
It's crazy.
There's a different way to work math. And I realize there's different ways to get the same answer that takes, like, believe me, if you want to torture me, make me do math homework for my kids. I'm like, I got myself out of school. You're on your own, bro. 2 + 2 is 4. Somebody may tell you it's 5 or 3 or whatever, but when you look at the scientific evidence, like, we got to do what the biologists are telling us. Mm-hmm. And I mean, why don't we beat this thing over and over and over? So.
Yeah, and I mean, you get people, and there's a few organizations that have gone out there and gotten their own like scientists and biologists to I say, for one, who is this person? Why do they have any merit to say anything against walleye fisheries? That all comes back to the fact that the walleye fisheries cannot be biased. Their scientists cannot be biased.
Yeah.
Just because there's multiple ones. They're not getting paid a lot to do what they do. But these other organizations that say, oh, their biologist is right. For one, we're talking about one person versus, there's like 7 to 10 people in the stock assessment for walleye fisheries. So you got one versus many. Two, what's their experience? What's their background? Maybe they worked up there and they're doing something for you now. 3, you're literally, that organization is paying that biologist to do their study. So what's going to happen? They go and pay this biologist to do their study, and maybe they're like, oh yeah, man, walleye fisheries is right. You think they're going to put that out there? Hell no.
That's what I was telling somebody today. I'm like, you can watch court dramas or you can watch court TV. Have you ever seen an expert witness for the prosecution or the defense go against the prosecution and defense? Hell no. They get paid by that person.
Exactly.
So all you coming in saying, our biologist, you know what? Shove them up your yin yang, your behind, because we don't care about what your biologists say. Your biologists are not the state biologists.
No,
that's right. Who cares? We don't
stack them on up, give them their check, and tell them sorry, because I don't care what your biologists say. Your biologists mean nothing to me. It's the state.
I want to ask if hopefully somebody's there with one of their paid for biologists, and I want to ask them what their thoughts are on red snapper. And let them do a study, because what are you going to do? Say then all of a sudden they're probably going to agree with walleye fisheries. Going to be like, oh yeah, they're right about red snapper, but they're wrong about redfish.
Oh yeah, no, exactly. Well, we could beat this to death.
But no, let's just finish up real quick. We're coming up on like an hour anyway. We wanted to be kind of quick with this. So as far as the meeting goes, comment period's ending. We have that meeting October 5th, Thursday, 9:30, 2000 Quill Drive, Walleye Fisheries Headquarters. First door on the right. Can't miss it. 2 agenda items coming up. One regarding redfish regulations. One regarding some new regulations on pogie boats. Not really regulations. It's probably going to be more pushing them out, a buffer zone. I'd like to see some regulations as far as how they fish and how they use their gear, because I think that's more detrimental to the buffer. And it'll add a buffer zone by saying you can't use your nets in shallow water. We'll get more into that another day. Maybe we'll do something on pogie boats next, just another short thing. But so let's say everything goes as planned. Well, we're going to have some opposition there, I'm sure. There's going to be somebody saying, I want to kill bull reds. There's going to be somebody saying, I don't like the slot. Let them say whatever they want. The commission, I have full confidence that they should do their job, and hopefully they will, and hopefully they stand with what they've backed and the decision they made on it. Basically, let's say everything goes smooth, the notice of intent gets finalized, the legislature, it will get sent to the Senate and legislature, the House of Natural Resources. They'll have, I think it's about 30 days to hold a public hearing on that. So if they have anybody that disagrees with that, they'll have that time period to hold a public opinion, a public vote on that, where I think 104 of them will all vote. So we'll probably have that. What sucks about that is they're very, I don't know what you call it, sneaky on that or whatever, but they're only legally supposed to give a 24-hour notice on that meeting. That's what's going to suck. They give a 24-hour notice, and we're going to have to rally around, get people to show up to that. But I have confidence that I'll have plenty of people showing up to that too. I'll be there. My clients that are fishing with me, they know that, look, if that comes up, then you're going to be hanging out in the city, or, I just probably not going to be able to find anybody to fish with you. But I've already talked to most of my guys, and, some of them will probably even come up to Baton Rouge with me, because that's how passionate they are.
Sorry, they did say that the, kind of a date they just kind of threw up against the wall with somewhere around December the 20th. So keep that on your mind. I don't know if it'll be that day. It probably won't be that day, but that's just something to keep in the back of your mind. But the commission also did say, like we got to let these guys who are supporting us, trying to, the ones that we feel like have our back, we got to let them know when this meeting is. And I say this for me, I told my guys, if you're fishing with me when this meeting comes up, you're welcome to ride with me to Baton Rouge, but I'm not fishing that day.
So yeah, we have, hopefully everything goes smoothly. Dave was just talking about a possible date. I would think it would have to be before then, honestly, just based on how they've done things in the past. But yeah, I mean, I'll be there. I'll be there. Whoever's with me fishing that day, they might be there with me. If not, they'll be hanging out somewhere in the city or something like that. But I mean, that's how important this is to us, that some people, for people to be like, oh, that's, at least in the opposition, for people that are like, oh, that's just, I can't miss out on a day. I'm like, well, look, I am missing out on a day because that's how important this is for me and my future. And I think we all need to be pretty selfless in the fact of this is our future. This is future generations. And I just don't understand people that can't get behind doing something good for the future generations. Don't they want their kids to see something good come out of this? So we'll have that. And let's say, that all gets the legislature, we have a meeting and it goes through. Let's just say it goes through. Then it would probably be instated, I think, within 15 to 20 days is about how long it takes them to, they got to go and, do all the legal work with the pamphlets and all that stuff too. So it'll probably be instated sometime, within a month. But that's kind of best case scenario for what we want to see. If it gets kicked from the legislature, then it'll bring it right back to the commission. We'll have to come up with another notice of intent, which, if that's the fact, then I still don't want to see less than 50% reduction. Maybe that looks more like we open up the slot and go to 2 fish instead of 3, which I actually had some people that complain about the slot. They said they'd rather that. So, we'll see. Hopefully we don't have to get to that and we can make something happen now, because if we get kicked back, then we're dealing with it. We're going to start with a different administration and all. And, this is about now, this is crunch time. This is about doing something now. The sooner we can do something, the better we can protect the crop of fish we have. The faster we can get back to something we know, we're just talking about the stock assessment that was finished up last year. So that's 20. We're in 2023. That was 2022. Based off of information from 2021, we're already 2 years behind the gun.
2 years behind.
So, by the time we have another stock assessment, there's no telling how bad it would be. I mean, we've seen with our own two eyes it declined pretty bad the past couple of years, especially as far as slot fish. I talk about the slot fish so much because that's where I've seen the biggest, most drastic decline, So, that's what we're shooting for. And like I said earlier, dude, I mean, I'm just so sick of people, wanting to rant and rave online about stuff and they don't want to show up. And people are like, oh, well, I've sent my emails and, I just don't believe in the system and all. I'm like, look, don't peg me as somebody who loves the government. I hate it. I hate being, having to talk politics and deal with all that crap. I just want to go out there and catch fish, man. I don't want anything to do with politics, and none of us do. But here's the deal. You got to get up there. You got to talk to the commissioners. You got to talk to the legislatures, talk to the senators. I mean, it's all about doing things in front of them. They have to, like I said before, they're required to listen to you for those couple minutes. They're not doing anything else. They're not looking at their phones. They're not watching TV. They're not ignoring you. They're giving you their undivided attention for, minute and a half, 2.5 minutes, whatever. I think it's 2.5 minutes, whatever the hell it is. So there's your chance. So show up, or, you don't really have an argument against it at that point unless you show up. So I'm going to leave us with that. If anybody else has anything, feel free to shoot.
No, I think we've taken in these, in this last year or so, we've turned the corner. We do have more people who do care about the fishery that are making their voices heard. And, we're going the right direction. I mean, we're not trying to punish anybody. We don't, it's not that, hey, you that wants to keep fish, you the devil. You's the devil. You the devil. Like foosball's the devil. It ain't that. The fishery's in trouble. Coastal erosion is real. We all know it. Declining fishery is real. We all know it. We're just trying to ensure the health of the fishery down the road. I think a lot of people are starting to wake up and saying, hey, it's not like it used to be. What can we do to change this? And so what you can do is make your voice heard, and let's try to get fishing. Let's try to make it look, because there's still a lot of marsh that, we've had lost habitat, but we still got a lot of marsh that doesn't have fish in it. And I think there can be fish in it. We gotta just be more responsible with the amount of fish we're taking out of the system. And that's what Wildlife and Fisheries is telling us. So I just don't understand why we want to fight it. I just think we need to just, be more conservative in our views and try to make sure there's fish for those, for our children in the future, people in the future, and that's it.
Yeah, I feel like we're making some progress. People are talking about it. I'm glad. I think for so long, people were scared to talk about it, afraid they're going to lose business and lose trips. And it may cut down on you a little bit, and that may be our part of, like, taking on the chin a little bit for us. But, yeah, just what you said. Glad people are talking about it. Don't forget to go online. Go to the Louisiana Game and Fish. Figure out where to make your public comment. We can share that with you. Don't forget to make your voice heard. Come to Baton Rouge, even if we don't agree with you. Make sure you come and share your opinion, because I will definitely be there. I know other guys will be there and ladies will be there. So come and share your opinion. So.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, that's the thing. At the end of the day, like I always tell everybody, and like I always leave the commission, redfish in Louisiana, as far as our fishery. Louisiana, in my opinion, is still and will always be the greatest red fishery on earth. And honestly, I think one of the greatest fisheries on earth. I don't ever want to see a day where that becomes different. I don't want to see a day where that statement isn't true, especially when it comes to redfish. And at the end of the day, we are fighting for these changes. We want these changes to happen for the better. And you know what that's going to do? That's going to make more fish for all the people, or the few people, I should say, that are against us and want to kill everything. So we're literally trying to fight for more fish for the people that are against what we're saying, to kill more fish. So, I mean, that's literally what's going to happen at the end of this. I mean, we're just fighting for more fish for everybody. All right, y'all. Thanks for listening to another episode of the Redfish Podcast with Me, Shane, and Dave. That was a pretty unorganized rant, pretty much, just because we're kind of doing this last second. We've been pretty busy lately, so I just wanted to get everybody's attention kind of focused on what they can do. We have the meeting coming up on Thursday, October 5th, 9:30 a.m. at Walleye Fisheries headquarters, 2000 Quail Drive, first door on the right. Be there, have your voice heard, say something that, and like I always tell people, do some research, man. Don't just get up there and say something just dumb. And the commission has done their research. They listen to the biologists. They know what the science is now. I really do feel like they know more than they ever have, especially regarding redfish. They're educated on the subject. I mean, there's certain things that they can't control, and they don't really want to hear about that. So, I mean, it's just like, somebody yelling at you saying, man, I can't believe you made it rain today, or, I can't believe you made it blow 25 miles an hour today. I mean, that's just not how this works. So get educated on the subject, man. I mean, like I tell everybody, anybody can call me, text me anytime, and I would love to enlighten you on many things you don't know. I guarantee you, I'm going to tell you something you don't know. I know the science. I know the anecdotal evidence. I know from experience. There's so many things that I've spent so much time learning on this subject. And I don't believe anybody in this state, at least fishermen like me, has spent this much time diving into the science behind it, diving into research behind it, diving into statistics, into past experiences from other people, past experiences from themselves. I mean, there's plenty more people with more experience than me out there fishing, but I've been doing this plenty damn long enough. From sight fishing to spin fishing to bait fishing. I've done the popping cork and live shrimp thing. I've done it all. I've done the fly fishing thing. I'm just saying, hey, get educated on the subject, because there was a lot of things that I thought beforehand that went against what I maybe thought before I learned what the actual truth was. And that's, the fact of the matter. That's what science is there for. That's what everybody needs to get educated on the subject. So go ahead, of course, use that hashtag One for Louisiana, man. We love seeing those. I'm hoping I can get sometime soon, maybe after this meeting and things settle down, I can get back to sharing some of those from people. I try to share them whenever, but I'd really like to, get something going where maybe we can get some people behind some prizes or something for that, because I think that's pretty cool. It's a pretty cool movement that everybody can get behind. Like I said, just throw one fish back, man. I'm not telling you to do a whole lot. Throw one fish back for us. Pick up one piece of trash from the marsh. I'd love to see some more of that. Maybe I'll work out something with some people too. Maybe we can get, I don't know, go fill up a small Walmart bag of trash every day. It's probably a bad example, considering Walmart bags are probably the worst thing on earth when it comes to litter and just for the environment. But I don't know, at least fill it up with more trash and find a way to recycle it later, maybe. I don't know, but we could all use more picking up trash in the marsh. We could all use throwing a few fish back. Like I said, this is a fight for more fish for everybody. And for the final couple hours of the comment period, send your comments to jadrians@wlf.la.gov. I'll have that down in the comments again, and just, CC comments at wlf.la.gov. I'll have all this written in there, all the information. If you want any more information on the subject, there's a great write-up that, many people have done it. Tailwater stepped up big over there in Texas and did a good write-up on it that actually has a lot of valuable information on it too. Obviously, the Saltwater Guide Association has done a great job as far as putting that information together. That's what a lot of people have used to write up a lot of their things that they've come up with. But they've done a great job of organizing the science, and that's kind of where their opinions came from, is backed by science. And that's the same as I am. I'm in agreement with the biologists. Like I said, they have a terribly thankless job. They get criticized for anything and everything unless it goes along with what somebody says. Somebody says, oh, I want to kill more red snapper, and then they come out and say, well, yeah, the science says we definitely can keep more red snapper. Nobody batted a single eye at that. I would be willing to bet plenty of money that they didn't have a single person say, hey, that's really stupid. We should not kill more red snapper. But, here we go trying to change redfish limits for the better and kill a few less redfish. And people will kind of get up in arms. Not as many people. Like I said, there's really not that big of an opposition for redfish, just because anecdotally, not a lot of people have been catching the redfish that they should have been especially past 10 years. I mean, as far as the people that have been doing it for 3 or 4 years, I mean, I don't know. I don't know what to tell you. I can't really include you in that because you've only seen a small part of our fishery. But the people that have been doing it for 10 plus years, I mean, you've seen it. You've seen the decline over the years. I mean, I have clients that have been fishing down here longer than I've been guiding, and they've seen it too. So, but like I always say, I will forever always think, and hopefully nothing ever changes, that we have the greatest red fishery on earth. I never want to see a day that becomes different, But go ahead, feel free to like and share this. I appreciate any comments I get on this. Send your comments as far as what you want to recommend to us or anything you want to tell me or Shane or Dave to the Redfish Podcast at gmail.com. And I'll have everything else I think needs to be looked at or written in the notes for this episode. And hope to see you on Thursday. And be looking out for another one soon. We'll try and update you on what happens this Thursday. So until then, have fun, good fishing, be safe, pick up some trash out there, throw a fish back, and see you at the next one.